Hey guys, on today's episode of TCA Crossroads, we have one of Orange County's great VCs, Jeff Bocan with Okapi Ventures, where we'll be talking about the current funding climate. We'll learn more about the firm and just learn more about what they're into and what's hot and what's not. And it'll be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. All right. And as always, with me, Mr. David Friedman. How are you today?
I never had it so good. So good to see you, Costin.
Likewise, it's been a minute, David, that we've put out a podcast episode together. What you been up to?
Yeah, I've been running around looking at deals. I mean, it seems to be everyone wants to look at deals towards the end of the year. And September, October get real busy. I was up in at Pepperdine, most fundable companies last week. I think last week we looked at about 40 plus companies. This week I looked at about 40 companies, and by this time I have a pretty good perspective on what kind of companies want funding and why they want funding and how we're going to fund them. But it was great. I mean, fantastic. Couldn't complain.
So I'm kind of a numbers guy, at least roughly. You saw about 80 companies. How many of those do you think are going to get funded?
Well, a couple of the companies we actually did fund that went through Pepperdine Most Fundable Companies, most notably Nuvox, which came out as a gold winner. But probably out of the 80, I'm not sure how many TCA will fund, probably around 2, 3 maybe. But a lot of these companies, especially the ones that Most Fundable Companies, will get funded by a variety of companies, including potentially Okapi, which leads us to our guest.
Our guest. Who is our guest today, David? Tell me a little bit about who we have on the show, but don't tell me too much because we want to hear it from him as well.
All right. Well, we have Jeff Bocan. He is with Okapi. So come on down, Jeff.
All right. Here comes Jeff.
Hey.
Jeff. Hey.
Like
welcome
magic.
to the podcast. There we go. We've conjured you. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing really well, thanks. Happy to be speaking with you guys. It was fun hanging out with you guys last week too. But good to be on your pod.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for making time for us. And I do want to just ask a question that our viewers might be wondering. How do you pronounce your last name?
Oh yeah, Bocan. David nailed it. It was great. But honestly,
I'm shocked actually.
I'll even answer to bacon. I mean, everyone loves bacon, right? You switch the O and the A and just bacon, and I kind of wish it was bacon, but I have to go with Bocan.
I think we all answer to bacon. Somebody just waves some bacon. I'm just
exactly
all right. I'm on my way. Awesome, cool. Well, now that we've settled that, we can wrap up. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day. Just kidding. All right. So you are, Okapi Ventures is one of the VC firms that I've known about for 10, 15 years. They're kind of a staple in Orange County, one of the OG SaaS investors in Orange County. I'm pretty sure I pitched Mark about any meeting, my last company. Why don't we dive in and tell us a little bit about first yourself and then Okapi and kind of the history and what you guys are all about.
Sure. So I've been doing venture capital for a little over 20 years now. And I've done it in a handful of markets. And then most recently here with Okapi for the last 6 over the years. So I've been a VC in London, England, Santa Monica for a bit, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then here in Newport Beach. I've always been doing early stage, different investment strategies over those time periods when I was with 2 other firms, Saffron Hill Ventures and Berengia, and now Okapi. But lately we've been focused on enterprise SaaS. Along the way, I've had the chance to back some really great companies in the cybersecurity space as well. Duo Security was kind of one of my biggest wins that I had, which kind of pioneered two-factor authentication. Sold to Cisco for a little over $3 billion. And I was lucky enough to be the first investor into that. And
wow, nice.
Our firm, Okapi, one of our big home runs was CrowdStrike, another cybersecurity company. So we've had some success in cyber, but which has kind of fed us into focusing more on enterprise SaaS here over the last couple of years. You're right that as a firm, we are one of the OGs. Mark and Sharon got Okapi started in about 2005. and it actually kind of spun out of Octane of all things.
Mm.
Some of the backers of Octane liked what was happening in terms of the work of developing the community here in Orange County, but there wasn't really any money to go into the companies that they were trying to nurture. So some of the original Octane backers, which were some corporations like Western Digital, Connexent Systems, Edwards Life Sciences, some of those companies were some of the foundational LPs of Okapi originally. And it was created to have a pool of capital that could go into companies that were here both in Orange County and Southern California. And that's continued to be our our LP base, our investor base has evolved over the years as the corporates kind of come and go, and then the strategies evolve. But we continue to focus on Southern California as and for the companies that we're investing into. We're investing out of our fund 4 now, and in the last 35 deals that we've done, over 90% of them are based here in Southern California, kind of Santa Barbara down to San Diego, with a good chunk of those being in Orange County. And we typically lead a seed round of a company. It's usually their first institutional round that they've raised, maybe beyond friends and family, maybe post angel rounds. We work with angel groups like TCA a lot, kind of then doing the next price or the first price round of a deal. We'll write a circa $1 million check into a $2 to $3 million seed round that we lead. We typically have a board seat with the companies we work with and are really hands-on for the first 3+ years of the company as they move to their Series A and beyond. And we do a lot of enterprise software. We're kind of generalists though. We'll do a little bit of everything. We don't love hardware businesses, and we don't do healthcare anymore. And we're just software-driven companies is what we're looking to back.
See, I met Jeff a while back over with a company in San Diego, and now that I know that you are in CrowdStrike, I have another potential opportunity working together. But tell us how you work with the angels.
Yeah, so we love angel groups. It's an important source of deal flow for us, and not only in terms of finding opportunities, but working with the angels post investment. Because a lot of times, angel-backed deals, an angel usually has gotten involved with a company because they have some personal insight, industry contacts, affinity to that industry, some where they can add more in value than just whatever check they wrote. And we like having those investors involved with the companies in the early phases. As I mentioned, we're typically leading a seed round. It might be $1 million of 2, but we syndicate out the rest. So we like to syndicate those rounds with angel groups if they aren't already in deals. So we'll show some investments that we're leading to angel groups, and for those that can move pretty quickly, we can get those done. So that's one way that we work with them. One is just kind of helping identify opportunities and sharing deal flow. The other is after we've made a decision on making an investment to bring in angels where we can. But a lot of times there are already angels involved because we kind of come in post that first check where angels have gotten things going, and then work with them as closely as we can to help the company live up to their fullest potential.
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. So just on the enterprise SaaS space right now, there's obviously a really hot thing happening. Maybe you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. It's AI, obviously. And I've been in enterprise SaaS.
AI
what is this AI? I've been in enterprise software for a long time now, and it just seems like, enterprise SaaS is last week's flavor. If you don't have AI enriching your enterprise SaaS software, if you don't have an AI story to your SaaS platform, there's no story, right? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I've not seen any pitch in the last couple months that is an enterprise SaaS deal that does not have an AI component to it. If it's either on the internal workflow side, the way they're building their product or supporting their product or supporting customers, or if it's on the customer facing and the interface side where the customer is able to engage with a chat tool or some kind of enhanced search functionality or something on the front end, but where the AI is not a part of it. So everybody's doing it to some degree.
And when I think about these two categories, it's like, which one's eating the other, right? Like there's one category And the other, but is AI eating enterprise SaaS, or is it always going to be enterprise SaaS that companies are paying for, and they're all going to have AI inside of it? What's your take on that?
I think it's, I mean, I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on it as well, but I think it's more the latter where I just feel like there's going to be this need for the enterprise. I think enterprise
Yeah.
SaaS AI will be a tool and a function
Yep.
of a broader enterprise SaaS tool, just because with any enterprise, the specifics of the workflow of that industry are just so important, and a generic tool isn't going to work appropriately. And it's not only just the workflow of those industries, but it just could be the specific tech stack of that industry in terms of the way, whether it's an order management system and how things are processed and inventories cataloged or whatever it may be. These things are pretty specific. And like the founders that we like to back are founders that have what I call earned insight, where they come from this industry, they've been in it for a while. They were either they're in that industry as a customer or building product for and supporting product in that industry, working with vendors and other people in the supply chain of that industry, and they just understand how the industry works and they have contacts. And I think that knowledge to shape the tech and the solution is going to be critical for that enterprise SaaS solutions. I don't think there'll just be a generic AI tool that will work in the way that it needs to work for an industry for it to be effective and for it to be adopted quickly. And
Yeah.
I think that it will be an important tool, and it's changing how everything works, but it's not going to take things over by itself.
So
Gotcha.
let me ask you,
Thanks
we
for
talked,
that.
yeah, so cost and raise is a really good point. AI is really critical, be it a tool or if I guess maybe there's an AI infrastructure, but getting your take on what are the other hot areas that that you're investing in, and then what's not so hot, because things are changing, especially in the economic environment.
Yeah. So we're still really focused on vertical SaaS solutions, and honestly, I think AI here helps make some of these opportunities a little bit more exciting than they would have been previously. So there are a lot of industries that have where software is present. There may be some ERP systems that have been around for a long time, but there hasn't been a lot of innovation. And there are chances for startups to go into some large established markets with some tools that are architected from a first principles basis, where they can really start from scratch and not have the burdens of a legacy system, and really offer some value that the current system can't, and do so either at a huge cost advantage or with some increased functionality. It could be around like embedded payments, for example. So we love B2B solutions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses today, name your industry, a lot of businesses still pay each other by check. Nancy in accounts payable cuts a check, and then Chris in accounts receivable gets it. And there's still all this latency in all these industries, and there are opportunities to build systems that remove a lot of the friction for industries to have things work more smoothly, and then also compress the cash cycles for a lot of these companies, when they can access money, I guess, it just reduce their overall sales cycle and cash conversion cycle, where they can kind of access that money sooner, where that has a huge value to it. And then for these startups, there's a chance not only to sell a software SaaS opportunity, but they can make money on the payment side too. So we've been looking for embedded payment solutions as like a hot area. I just met with somebody in the construction materials-ish space that has a cool ERP tool with embedded payments. And honestly, it's the payments piece that I'm most excited about. It's an industry that still is paying people by check. And I think there's opportunities like that in a number of different verticals. So we like embedded payments and just other automated workflow tools. So
That's
those are
almost
areas
touching a little bit on some fintech. It's got a little fintech flavor there.
But B2B fintech. So I think
B2B,
like if we were to say
yeah.
areas that are not hot, it's consumer fintech, which is kind of played out at this point. There was this run of, whether it's the neobanks and a lot of people trying to, do some things fresh online.
Crypto.
What about digital coins? Digital
Crypto.
coins, crypto, kind of dead.
Yeah, I mean, that was not an area we ever focused on. Not that we
I think
there's
funding's down. Funding's down in those spaces like 98%
Yep.
or some horrible number like that. Got it. Got it. So, so you're still excited about enterprise SaaS. You're excited about payment solutions that optimize legacy industries. There's probably a lot
Yeah.
of, there's still some of these like legacy industries. They still have their like Windows 98 servers,
Yeah.
in the back office, and a startup could come in there with some a little AI, sprinkle some cloud, and boom, you might be able to achieve a $1 billion market cap if it's uh, a niche industry, but big enough to get that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's exactly
that
right. Cloud. I mean, and honestly, even something as simple as mobile, which has obviously been around forever, and
yeah,
but just have. And again, when you think of the workflow, and if you have people that are in the field and being able to do stuff on a mobile device and have that tie into the system, which there are some industries that still can't do that. So I think there
yeah,
are opportunities in some large verticals where pulling in an integrated solution is still doable, and I like industries where there are some incumbents where customers are paying a software company for something, but it's probably a very antiquated software, 20 years old, companies like Epicor or whatever that have been around forever
yeah.
that have crushed it in a number of verticals and have massive market share in a lot of industries, but they didn't do mobile. They're not doing cloud. They haven't done,
They're
they're certainly
comfortable.
not thinking about AI.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
so I
ripe
think there
for
are opportunities for
disruption.
startups. Yeah,
So
I think there's a lot of verticals that are pretty big with that sort of dynamic, and I like those. So we're looking
Yeah,
So
for
let
those
me,
right
let
now.
me ask you a question about, as you touch on these other hot industries and the ones that are not so hot, what are you seeing in valuations,
Mm.
today vis-a-vis last year, the year before, and where do we see valuations going?
Yeah, I see it. Like what I'm seeing is pretty bifurcated. Um, so on the earlier seed side, I haven't seen valuations come down as much as I would have expected, honestly. And I don't know what you guys are seeing, but like for companies that are pre-revenue or barely any revenue, they're still looking at seed rounds, circa 10 million pre, which I feel is pretty high for companies like that. Like we would prefer those to see that closer to
pre-revenue.
5.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm still seeing a lot of that. And there's some really great companies that look really interesting, and there's tough decisions we have to make about whether we want to. We're pretty disciplined on our pricing. We rarely pay more than 10 million pre for anything, unless it's considerably further along. But normally we're going into
Okay.
a sub million ARR business, and we're typically paying less than 10 pre. And so I haven't seen pricing come down for the earlier stage opportunities, earlier stage with some traction. It may not be much, but like they have, a product's working. They maybe have some paying customers, but only a couple, and small revenue. Where it's hard to apply multiples, because it's like if they're doing
yeah,
100K in ARR, it's like no multiple
Yeah.
makes sense at
Right.
that.
Right.
The other part of the bifurcated market where I'm seeing it the opposite, and you're almost penalized for having been in business for a couple of years and actually having customers and having revenue. Now that's where I'm seeing pricing lower. So if you have 1.5, 2 million of ARR, those companies are the pre-monies are similar to what the kind of the companies that haven't proved themselves are, and
yeah,
I'm seeing lower multiples there. So which, for us, there's a great opportunity if we're investing in those later companies. But I think if you are an angel investor that went in and took the risk early on a company and it's grown and gotten to 2 million or so in ARR, like you're probably not getting rewarded as you should have been or you were in years past, because the valuation there are a little bit lower, and that is because the Series A round pricing has really come down, and the A's have gotten so much harder.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the gap between like that first round of capital and that A round has shrunk. The A's used to be, I don't know, some A rounds were getting done at 40, 50 million. Now the A rounds are getting done at 20, 30.
Yep. That's what we're
So
seeing.
to get that incremental jump, the valuations for those kind of seed extension, seed plus, or a company that maybe just raised a couple $1 million on safes, maybe at higher valuations, like things are kind of flat for them, even if they've made progress. Just because that jump to the A is not what it used to be.
Got it.
So
yeah,
it's gotten tough for the and then the earlier investors, they're thinking, well, we can make it all the way to that A round just on this one round alone. That's kind of what they're getting everyone to buy into. It's like, yeah, you can pay the 10 million pre, because we're going to go just to the A straight away after 2 years or whatever. And as you guys know, because I know you've been around for a long time doing this, it rarely happens that way. Usually there's an interim round. So
that's a little tough.
Investor, we're finding great opportunities in that like medium range, honestly, and we're deploying a little bit less. So we're investing right now into companies that are a little more mature, that maybe benefited from some angel money or, $1 million-2 million that they raised in safes, and then we're coming in at pretty attractive prices, and we're not pulling the trigger as much on the companies that are selling more of the sizzle than the steak, where they haven't really proved it yet, coming in at the 10 million pre, and it's still early. We're not doing as many of those.
Gotcha. Let me, you touched upon it a little bit, but let me ask, if you were speaking with an entrepreneur that has a company that is thinking about raising a seed round from Okapi, what would you like to see from them before they reach out, or when they reach out? What you talked a little bit about the traction, but just give us like 60 seconds of like the top 4 or 5 qualifications you need to see before you're going to take a deal seriously.
Yeah, I mean, we generally do like to see a pitch deck or some details that pull together a little bit of the,
definitely a pitch deck.
Framing the thoughts. Like, what do you do? I mean, look, some people like don't want to send a pitch deck. So we want to at least see a pitch deck outline, the thoughts, the thesis, like how's this coming together. In terms of traction, with the product, traction can come in like if you have customers, great. We'd love to know as much about the customers that you do have, how you brought them on as customers, what that process was like. Usually some of that will be covered in the pitch deck, but if not, it can be through the email conversation. Here's our go-to-market strategy. This is how we win customers, and then ultimately have the business model, what pricing you have, and how people pay you and how you make money. I mean, we don't require a ton from folks, but basic
sounds
pitch
easy.
Deck, brief email explaining what you want, and I welcome cold emails. Then when they come through, just paragraph or 2 explaining what you do along with a pitch deck, and I read all of them. We don't move forward on everything, or very little do we move forward on in terms of doing meetings, and I provide feedback to just about everything that comes through, unless it's just clearly not a fit. Well, if someone sends me like a med device deal and we're not doing those anymore, I don't really respond to those. But if someone has, 1, they've identified my name, 2, they know that we invest in Southern California companies, and 3, they explain why they think we might be interested, like I reply to all those. So we'll give everything a look.
That's awesome. All right, Jeff. Well, that was a great overview of Okapi, yourself, the thesis, the market. I think we covered a ton of ground here in about 22 minutes. David, any final thoughts for our audience here?
Well, we have a couple of opportunities coming up for Pitch Fest or getting entrepreneurs together with investors. I think Long Beach Accelerator is coming up pretty soon. And then there's one coming up, the Startup Game Changers Summit. I think that's a Thai and SoCal Alliance putting that together. I believe that's next week. And I think this podcast will get out before then. Hope to see everyone there. I'll turn it over to you for the last words that wisdom, Costin. And thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Always good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think the wisdom came from Jeff on this episode. Not much more to add. Just know that there's a great Orange County-based VC in Okapi Ventures with Jeff there and Mark Averett, and they've been supporting Orange County companies for a long time now. So if you meet some of that criteria that Jeff outlined, reach out to them. He sounds like a really nice guy that will actually reply to your email. So, yeah,
it's a low bar.
And all right, guys. So thank you for sticking around. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you share. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye bye.
Have a good one. See you.
Bye bye.